Folks, you're in for a real treat today. I couldn't be happier than having this young lady sitting across from me right now, Becky Blades, who is just a writer, an artist, a speaker. We're going to talk about everything she does. She sculpts. She can even weld. If you have a welding problem at home, she could probably weld for you as well. Founded a company, ended up selling a company, and you are so busy. It's amazing you had time to sit down with us, but I'm so happy you have. And thank you so much for coming to There's Just Something About Kansas City.
Thanks for having me. Nothing better to talk about than Kansas City.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. Talk a little bit about, I know we're going to talk about, you got your books and you've got lists and you've got things that everybody can live by. You have some little axioms that everybody can take in their daily life to live by. And I know your most popular book, and I think the one that a lot of people have read is, do more than you, start more than you can finish. But if you don't finish, you haven't failed. Okay, right. Which I just think is absolutely terrific. We'll get into all that stuff, but let's talk about Becky Blades a little bit and where you're born and raised, and your family a little bit, and your background from that point.
Okay, little Becky. I grew up with little Becky Blades. I grew up in Midtown Kansas City. My mom, I don't remember coming here, but I guess I was 3. And we grew up in a couple of houses in Midtown. One of the houses is not there anymore because it's the Costco parking lot. So you can kind of set
I know
where that is.
exactly where that is.
It was at 33rd and Charlotte, I believe.
Yes.
And the second house was at 34th and Baltimore, right behind Davies Uptown Rambler.
Oh,
so
gosh, yes.
those are things, those are legends in Kansas City. And I remember my mom always saying, one of these days, we are right between the plaza and downtown. And one of these days, this part of town is going to be something.
Right.
And finally, now, my 86-year-old mom can look at the house and know that somebody paid a pretty price for it. But it wasn't. It was just a working class neighborhood when we were there, and that was my upbringing. I went to George B. Longan Grade School.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then a whole bunch of high schools. Long story, because I had a hearing loss. I got bussed out to Bingham Junior High and Southwest High School, and Westport was my district, so I went there for a while. Graduated from Westport High School. Went to Mizzou for journalism school. Right. And my mom was a typesetter at the Kansas City Star, which was just a country club bus ride away up on Main Street from us. So I used to go visit her at the Kansas City Star and have dinner with her on her night shift. And it was then that I think I decided I wanted to go to journalism school, and was lucky enough to get a Roy Roberts scholarship, which is it was a scholarship for kids of employees, perhaps. And went to Mizzou Journalism School. And
siblings? Yeah.
I have 5.
Oh my gosh.
4 boys.
And you and little Becky.
And little Becky and little Sandy. I did have one sister, and you know what? She could take me better than those the boys did. In other words, she was a better fighter, a scrappier.
She was rough. Was she the youngest?
She was, the youngest of, in big families, so 6 kids, there were 2 clusters. She was the youngest of the first batch. Okay. And scrappy little blonde girl.
Tough. And then when you came along, she thought she had it made because she was the only girl for a while, right?
Yeah. No, I was the oldest girl. So it was Brett Blades, Becky
Blades. Oh, that's
Blades,
right. Becky was,
and then Sandy.
Okay, so Sandy was your younger sister.
Younger sister.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
She probably had a few battles with you as well.
Yeah.
So what happened to everybody just in a,
there's still, I lost my older brother last year, but they are all still in Kansas City.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So going in to see your mom, who's a typesetter for the Kansas City Star, put the idea in your brain about journalism. It was interesting, I think, after you graduated or while you're going through and you graduated from University of Missouri, which is a very prestigious school. I know Kansas and Missouri have that battle, and I know you've spoken to the University of Kansas Journalism School as well. But your thoughts when you're in there, that we have to be very objective, and I don't want to be a journalist. What changed? What changed for you?
Well, I liked writing, and I certainly liked the fact finding, the research. I was inquisitive, but then, as you know, the job of a journalist is to find the most important things and report objectively. Just the facts, ma'am. And I just liked picking sides. So I could tell that, in journalism school, you start to see what the job is. And the job was to not be creative. The job was to, be accurate.
Yes.
And be balanced.
2 sources.
Yes. And I value those things. And absolutely, I want that in my news. But after I graduated, really while I was still in journalism school, PR and marketing started intriguing to me. And then my first, to get back to Kansas City neighborhoods, my first internship was at Starlight Theater.
Oh, gosh.
And that was, in the last year that the theater had 10 book shows. And were you around here then, Frank?
Yes,
Okay. So if you can imagine, 10 book shows would be, they started in June and went Saturday night to to Sunday. I can't remember the exact nights, but 10 weeks in a row without a stop. So I don't think I had a day off all summer. But also in that summer, somebody above me got sick with the executive director, and then everybody moved up a slot. Well, that moved me up to the slot from intern to director of public relations.
Oh, gosh.
At 21 years old.
Sure.
Yeah. But that was what an education. And I learned a lot. I learned that I loved theater. I loved PR. I loved, and lived the job of public relations and managing communications for someone.
Right.
And that kind of started me on the road to what was then my career, public relations.
Yeah, right. And you founded a company, Blades and Associates, right?
Yeah.
And that, went for a period of time till 2003, I think you sold it?
Yes.
Yes. And so talk about Blades and Associates, and, we'll get into the family and Carrie and the girls, Taylor and Tess and all that sort of thing as we go along. But just talk a little bit about Blades and Associates.
Yeah. Well, I had worked for a couple of other agencies. I also did a little stint in political communications. And when I was in my late 20s, I did as so many entrepreneurs do. I looked around at the company I was working for, and I thought I could do it better. So I decided I wanted to start my own company. Mm-hmm. And for women also, it was a different time as unsatisfactory as things may be now. It was much worse then. And I looked at public relations, and there were no women with children working in firms. I mean, if you decided to have a family, you decided to quit your job.
Okay, did you have a family at that time?
Not yet.
You did not yet, okay.
So that was part of my family plan. I decided I needed to start my own company if I was going to have kids and work.
Make your own rules.
Right, make my own rules. So I was working at a great company, and actually they helped me. When I took that job, I said, you just need to know I'm going to start my own company at some point, and you can, I don't want to leave you in the lurch. And they said, you know what, you get us through this, we'll help you. And they did. I subleased office space from the company I worked with before. Mm-hmm. I hired mostly women, and a lot of the very bright women that were in companies, kind of plagued by the attitudes I was talking about. So I had a great group of mostly women, and when we found a good guy, we hired him.
Yeah. We'll think about it. Sure.
Anyway, Blades and Associates. Well, it was a great company. We won awards. We had some of the best local companies, and started growing in national business. And I just got to a place where I felt like I had scratched that itch. That's minimizing it a bit, but I just knew there were some other things I wanted to do. One was art, and the other was writing, and then there was some civic work and travel.
Right.
My husband traveled internationally, so just a lot of reasons. And I kind of put it out. Put the word out and got connected with the Trezzola family, of Trezzola Communications, which is a very successful firm here in Kansas City, and it was kind of a match made in heaven. We moved together, and then I went off on my next journey.
Yeah, and your next journey, and I'm not sure if it's like the next, but you called it Startistry and Startist. So that would be put the art in the middle of both of those, and you sort of, and you went from there. But you never really slowed down much. I mean, you always were going in. And where did the art start? And I'm sure that evolved into doing sculptures and all of that sort of thing as well. Where did that start at a young age? Were you an artist when you were young?
I did. I took art all through college and just little smatterings, and I like to do poetry. I would on the back of Dale's Drive-In. Do you remember Dale's Drive-In?
Oh,
I was
gosh.
a car hop at Dale's Drive-In, and I used to write poetry on the back of the building while I was waiting for cars to come in.
You're a graffiti artist at the same time.
I got yelled at, so I started writing in pencil. But I liked words and I liked images, and so when I what I longed to do when I sold the company was to be able to put a studio in my home and do that kind of full time. And I wanted to sell my work. I wanted to get serious about it.
Yeah.
So I did that. And as I say in my book, Start More Than You Can Finish, the people I started really feeling a kindred spirit with after I sold the company and got away from just being with clients and colleagues was people who are starting things, artists, inventors, entrepreneurs. These were people who acted on their ideas, and that concept of startist and the art within the start just was something I started ruminating about, and that was about 20 years ago, and the book just came out last year. So yes, there was a long kind of little germination time there.
Yeah, right. And you had the ability to take your time and just to figure out this road, right? And to get into what you really love to do. I'm not saying you didn't love that with the Blades and Associates, but it was time to move on to your next ventures. It always seems to be you're moving on. At the end, we'll talk about what's your next venture, because I know you're probably not done with all this, especially since the girls are gone now and they're both into their own careers, and you're still here in Kansas City. But start about I know you've sold a lot of your art. I'm not sure if you have had a showing yet anywhere in town, but I know you're in a lot of private art collections around the world. That has to make you feel, you know what, I really can do this.
Yeah. I started when the Crossroads was just bubbling up. You could do art shows at dentist's office in the Crossroads. I mean, it was a more kind of gritty Crossroads at the time. I got very involved in the Arts KC. I chaired that group and helped support other artists. And yes, I've been in like 3 galleries in town. I'm currently represented by the Eva Reynolds Gallery, and my work's in a gallery called For Fine Art, which has 2 galleries in Montana where we have a summer place. So I don't produce that much right now, but at the time I was producing a lot, and I was producing faster than I could sell it. So that's why I had a lot laying around when I wrote my first book, and I had some pages to fill. So.
Yeah, right. So how long between the 2003 and your art and all that sort of thing did you really get into? Maybe I'll write a book.
Yeah. I guess it was probably 10 years, but there's a thing called National Novel Writing Month, which is in November. And I wrote my first book No, I take it back. It wasn't National Novel Writing Month. I wrote my first book, which is a bad novel, which you do not want to read. I will save your time. About a year after I sold the company, and it was based on a book called No Plot, No Problem, which encouraged us to write a novel in 30 days. And it gave you a word count that you had to do in a day. And I wrote my first novel that way. Now, the reason for this strategy to write in 30 days was to kind of help you build a writing habit. I didn't know that at the time, and the author really didn't know that at the time, but that's what it did. It made me mostly go to coffee shops. My girls were in high school at the time, so I would peel away as soon as they went to school, and I would sit in a coffee shop until I got my words written. And then that writing habit just continued, really, for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so the first book that became a book, which is called Do Your Laundry or You'll Die Alone, advice your mom would give if she thought you were listening.
Right, exactly.
Frank, it was not a book idea. I never started it as a book. It was just journal entries to help me survive my oldest daughter's first year of high school. I mean, yes, last year of high school. So as she was getting, as I was adjusting to the fact that I was losing this child and I was almost done with that, I started getting very alarmed that she was not ready for the world. So instead of, do you have kids?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, there's comes a time where you're like, oh my God, I am putting this person in the world. They are not ready. The world is not ready.
Right. What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong? What did I not do? So instead of yelling at her or trying to educate her, because at that point they are not listening.
No,
they
are
have
not.
1.5 feet out the door. I just started writing things down. I wrote down, my advice. I wrote down what she didn't know. I wrote down observations. And not only of her, but of her friends, because I knew I could only see a little bit of what she was at the time. Anyway, all of those reflections ended up in a very long email that I sent to her first day of college, because we did survive the year. Right. She got into college. And I said, here you go, sweetie. And the subject line was, do your laundry or you'll die alone, because I wanted her to read it. Yes. I needed to get through the noise of, her freshman.
You needed a bullet point to grab her attention, right?
Exactly. Clickbait.
Right, it was perfect,
my first clickbait.
Right.
And she called back, and she wanted to be a writer. So she called back, which is great. They don't call anymore.
No.
She called back and said, Mom, this is great. This is funny. My roommates all think it's funny, and we think you should make it into a book, and you should use your art, and you should have it done by the time Tess graduates from high school. That's her little sister.
Yeah.
And so I had a deadline, and nothing's better than a deadline from your kids, because we take those seriously.
And so where was Taylor in high school at that time? I'm sorry, where was Tess in high school? Yeah.
She was then a sophomore.
Okay.
So I had a couple years, and if you know publishing, of course I didn't start right that second. I had other stuff going on, but once I got to it, I realized, getting a publisher starts with getting an agent, which can take months. Mm-hmm. Getting a publisher can take months, and I needed to have it designed. Anyway, I realized I didn't have time for all that. I had to self-publish, so I started a publishing company. At the time, we didn't have it.
Okay. Hold on. That's the best. Okay, I was looking around for a publishing company. Instead of being Vanity Press, okay, hey, I'm going to start a publishing company. Honey, I'm going to start a publishing company now.
It's easy when you only have one client and you don't need more.
That's exactly right. You're not worried about the next author.
I just remember authors, I talked to other authors, and they said, just don't self-publish, because a book has to look like it has a publishing company. And so since I'd been in public relations and done print work before, I knew how to make something look legit. Mm-hmm. But you did need to have those filings and ISBN numbers and Library of Congress, and you did have to have a logo and a true publishing company. So it just all degenerates to work, as they say. But I had to think of a name for the publishing company, and that's the first time I used the word Startistry.
Okay.
Startistry Publishing. And then in that book, while I was digging for the art for that book, is when I realized I had a lot of unfinished work in my studio. And that was kind of the start of the study for the next book, because I started kind of beating myself up for all the things I had started and not finished.
Right.
And so I just turned it into a kind of a research project, about a 5-year research project. Thinking, is this bad that I have all this unfinished work? I mean, initially I thought, absolutely, it's bad. But then I learned that those unfinished pieces were part of the progress to all the finished pieces. I mean, I have finished a lot. I've finished more than a lot of people.
Right.
I don't finish as big or as soon as I want, perhaps. But after that kind of project, I started talking to other people about their unfinished work and really found that the most successful people don't finish a lot of what they start.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you say start more than you can finish. And then the best part of that is right after it, not finished is not failure. Okay, meaning, you're still going to have some stuff left on the table or on your easel or wherever else you do your, I'm just going to say where you display your talent. Okay, because obviously you're extremely talented. Okay, and I know you're not going to, I know you don't want to hear that, but you are, and I think you know that, and I think that's why you've carried on these things, and that's why everything has continued to grow, because once you started publishing, and you started completing things on your daughter's, idea of say, hey, yeah, go write a book, and right away, okay, and then I'm going to start my own publishing company. Sure, I'll finish the book, no problem. Yeah, and so, and then you end up on Huffington Post. You end up writing for Oprah. You end up having all of these things come to you at that point, or how did you do it? Did you put it out there and they came to you and said, can you do something for us?
Mm-hmm. I think it's both. When you put yourself out there, people come to you. I mean, it's with every podcast you have, you probably learn things that ignite connections that lead to something else. And that's especially when you're sharing messages to the world. Yes, the Oprah story is one everybody likes to hear, and it is fascinating. That first book somehow got in the hands of the people at Oprah.com. They do not know how. This was a self-published book. I did hustle, and I did make a publishing company, but they don't know how, and they asked to excerpt part of it for a Mother's Day newsletter that went to 6 million people. So they excerpted it, and they called for my permission.
Oh, gosh.
Interestingly, at that point, a publisher had come to me because the book was selling so well. So I had to get the new publisher's permission, and yes, I gave them permission. And then they asked, well, do you write articles? And this, the things in Do Your Laundry or You'll Die Alone are just kind of musings of self-care and advice for all of us. So I started writing on those kinds of topics,
Yeah, right. Never put anything on the internet. You wouldn't discuss with a job interview your first date or your mother, exactly. All those sort of things. And then, so do you remember the excerpt? You don't have to recite it, but do you remember the excerpt? Was it a whole chapter? Was it a partial?
They chose about 25 of the 270. I think one of the ones that was popular at the time was never bring your cell phone to the table, because at that time we were trying to figure out what are we going to do with these things and polite society?
Yeah, right. One of these. Yeah, sure.
Sure. And they're trying to teach your kids. And then I wrote a little about, how it feels to other people when you're looking at a phone.
Exactly, yes.
There's, friends don't let friends drive drunk or get discount body art.
Right.
Things like that. I mean, there's nuggets of information, but I try to make them
put a positive spin on it.
Specific and a little snarky. And those are the things that kind of keep people reading it. And that's why it's been a popular gift book because, moms, we these are things our parents said to us time after time. If you can't be nice, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything.
Or be snarky.
So, which is kind of like I followed that up with, you're smart enough to think of something nice.
Yes, absolutely.
If you can't say something nice, don't say anything. Yeah. Well, don't be, don't go pout in the corner either.
Yeah, right.
So it's just, but yes, we remember those things from repetition, but we can also remember those things if we put a little zinger with it. So that's what I tried to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what catches everybody's attention. I love the zinger, and I also love the, you should have at least one stuffed animal. Don't feel bad if you're an adult and you have at least one. What is your stuffed animal?
I have a little elephant. Actually, it's not. It's one of my girls. They left, their stuffed animals, but so I've adopted one of theirs. But yeah.
I told my daughter, my youngest daughter, Lauren, I told her I gave her Blue Bear. Ended up being Blue Bear.
Oh.
And she took it to school with her, and she still has Blue Bear. Stuffing's coming out. And I said, hey, I can take Blue Bear and get him restuffed. Okay, there's a company. She goes, don't you touch
dare.
Blue Bear. Okay, yes. So then she has all these others, and when she goes on vacation, she takes them, instead of having her and her husband in a lot of the shots, she'll have the stuffed animals in the shots. They've been to New Zealand and the Colorado Rockies and all these other places, Ireland, and all these little stuffed animals are sitting on rocks or sitting in little groves or whatever, which I thought was great. Now, the only thing I want you to tell me is I have two stuffed animals, okay? The Grinch and Max. What does that say about
These are
me?
you?
Yeah, I have the Grinch and I have Max.
What is Max?
Max is his dog.
Max is his dog.
Grinch's little dog.
Okay.
Little Max.
Oh, I think it's adorable, and only because I just watched Grinch again. No. Are they weathered? Are they pristine?
No,
like they were in the box?
They're pretty good. Yeah, they haven't been hugged a whole lot. Okay, you don't hug the Grinch. He's a little bristly, so you don't hug. And Max might bite you if you hug the Grinch. So,
I love it.
Yeah, and some of your other stuff is just amazing. 7 places your joy hides.
Yes.
You don't have to name all 7, but just
it hides on walks with girlfriends. Gosh, I can't even think of that. That article was a while back. 7
short talks, childhood trauma,
and
making your bed.
And making your bed, and when you see little baby fingernails.
Oh gosh, yes.
There's little things, and we need to find them for ourselves sometimes. But that was an article for Oprah, where of course, that's what we need. We need those kind of musings all the time to remember.
Now especially.
Because it's, the world comes at you with the negative stuff. We need to remember where to find what gives us joy. And, cat videos, that might even be on the list. I mean, for me, it's puppy videos. If I can go,
Either one.
Golden, I want
golden retrievers.
Golden retrievers is my cocaine,
Yeah, we have one. Yeah. Lucy,
Send me pictures of Lucy. That'll make my day.
Yeah, right. And your others, everything's going to be all right. I think you can tell that your attitude, the positivity of all this, even though there's a little snark in there somewhere, it's a way to get your point across about positivity as well. Yeah, right.
Right. As they, something I was writing about recently was saying that, sunshine is an inside job. And my youngest daughter lived in Seattle for a while, and we knew it would be hard for her because she does respond to the sunlight. And I like
Bad
sunlight
place
too.
to be.
I know. And she doesn't live there anymore. She moved to LA. But in truth, she got one of the fake lights, and that helped. But
Oh, gosh, yeah.
for advice for most of us is just to remember that sunshine is an inside light that we can,
Right.
and we need to learn how to turn it on and off.
Yeah, right. And they say the people in the Pacific Northwest don't tan; they rust. So that is their saying up there. Yes, it's a little damp
It's a
in
beautiful
Seattle,
place,
and it really doesn't rain as much as you think, but it's overcast and foggy, and it feels damp all the time. Everything is damp. It's just up on the North Coast is just that. Yeah, that's really an interesting place to be. And talk about Carrie a little bit. I mean, here's your husband. Talk about him a little bbit and how he came along for the ride. I'm sure he was extremely supportive.
Oh gosh, yes. He is. He was a lawyer who recovered soon after we got married. From private practice to being an insurance executive, and then about the time I sold the company, he also migrated to a career as a public speaker and
motivational speaker, or more of a business,
specifically in the business finance category.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
he was a claims attorney, and he spoke about, and still does. I mean, he's still working workshops on financial acumen in the insurance industry. How to teach people how insurance companies make money, which sounds really boring, but he makes it fun and funny. And that turned into one of our partial retirement interests is comedy. So you might find him at an open mic night or doing comedy shows
about
around
that?
town. Yeah.
He should get together with George Guastello from Union Station. George was
Does he do that?
George. That was his original. He was a stand-up comic.
I
And
did
now
not
he's the
know
president
that.
CEO of Union Station. Yes,
I knew George
absolutely.
when we were both babies, and I did not know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so
I
tell
knew
him-
showbiz was a big thing for him.
Yeah, it was. It was a big deal. And he did the, of course, the American Royal Barbecue stuff and all that sort of stuff. That's where I met George.
Yeah.
I had no idea until we talked to him here on this show. So it was great. And that's terrific for him. And obviously, he'd need a sense of humor living with you. Otherwise, no wonder he got out of being a lawyer. And I feel like him. Now, I know he's still doing his thing, but I thought I was retired until my wife came to me and said, no, you're not. We're going to do this, and this is her. This is her baby.
This is her
So
baby.
I am just a contract employee. Is all I am. Yeah.
Go Sarah.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely,
what? I
yes.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah,
That's good for you.
absolutely. So yeah, it's great. So talk a little bit about Taylor and Tess. Taylor's in LA. Tess is in New York. They're both well on their way as well. So you did something right as a mom, okay? And where did they both go to school?
They went to Barstow School here
Okay.
in Kansas City. We lived kind of right across the street, so it was we moved there to go to the Catholic school, but then the class sizes were too small. Anyway, we're very happy with Barstow, and Taylor Taylor's in New York and Tessa's in LA. Easy to get them.
Taylor's in New York,
Easy
Tessa
to
in
get them.
LA. Okay.
Yeah, we have a Taylor. Along with every other
Yes,
girl
everybody
born
else in
that
Kansas
year.
City, yeah.
That year.
I'm surprised she's not coming from you. Taylor Swift. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. We got a lot of Taylor merch this Christmas, though. You know, those we spent a lot at the Made in KC store. So the firstborn that inspired me to write the book for the secondborn, she is in New York. She's doing great. She's had a great year. She always wanted to be a writer, I told you, so she went kind of straight into trying to build a career in comedy writing. And she now writes for the John Oliver show Last Week Tonight.
Okay.
And she just released her first book this year called A Guide to Midwestern Conversations, which is a funny take on, our Midwestern niceness.
Yes, right. And I assume she has a publisher?
She has a real publisher. She has a real. It's what I guess.
Oh,
Harper.
I thought it'd be you.
No,
oh
no,
my
no.
gosh, she's with Harper.
Yeah, she is with Harper.
Turncoat.
No. Yeah. No, she does everything large, and that's a funny Kansas City story. I will tell it. So after I got my second. When I did my second book, I wanted to go traditional publisher and I wanted a book deal. So when I went and got it, it was easier than I thought. And I said, Tay, I was very excited. I called her. I said, honey, you want to be a writer. Don't do your first book like I did in my 50s. Mm-hmm. Get your first book out. And there were a couple articles that had gone viral for her. So I said, just do it on one of those books. She said, I need an agent. Is that going to be hard? I said, yes, it is. Start now. She worked about a week, and she got tired of it. She said, Mom, this is too hard to find an agent. I'm just going to go with the agent I know, Andrea. I said, who's Andrea? She said, Andrea Blatt. I said, little Andrea Blatt? This was a classmate of hers in high school. I said, little Andrea Blatt is a book agent? She said, yes, Mom. I said, well, is she with a reputable firm? Because, it really, she says, she's with Andrews, what's the big one? I'm embarrassed.
That's okay. Don't
the biggest agent in the world. And so she was her agent. She got a big book deal, much bigger than mine. And it's doing really well. And it's a funny book. So yeah, and last year she won an Emmy on the John Oliver Show.
That's awesome.
So I know she's having a great year. And if anybody says, "Oh, isn't she lucky? Oh, things are really happening for her," she is the hardest working person you will ever know.
Luck. You don't get that on luck.
Yeah. So I write a little in Start More Than You Can Finish about her. When she was 5, she wanted to play Annie. Annie was the song that, like the Frozen is today,
yes.
The movie where they knew every word and they just drove us crazy. And she said, Mom, take us, I want to be in Annie. So can you take me to an audition? And we said, honey, it's Kansas City. There are no auditions. There's no Annie being performed in Kansas City right now. And so she just started her own. She did Phillips Backyard Theater, and she cast herself as Annie. So just like starting a business, so you can be the president.
Being her own, her self-published. Yeah, I'm going to start my own theatrical company here. Yeah,
there it
in
is.
The backyard,
charged a quarter. Nobody asked for their money back.
Great.
And her little sister was the Molly, the one that held the little dog.
Right.
So she cast her sister. Anyway, and then her little sister, who is really the funniest person in the family. You just have to know that. Taylor runs a lot of her material past her little sister, Tess. Now, Tess isn't full-time in entertainment now or yet, but that's maybe one reason that she went to L.A. I'm not going to speak for her, but she works for a tech company in marketing, and in the summers, she produces a musical improv show, or she has. I don't know if she's doing it again this summer, called Baby Wants Candy at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So she's kind of gone into producing. She went to college in Chicago and studied at Second City.
Okay.
And so they both love comedy, and they're both fun and funny.
Right.
And
Where'd Taylor go to school?
Taylor went to Harvard.
She went to Harvard. Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, that is awesome.
That's
See? You did some things right here, kid. Come on. Give yourself a little pat on the back.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
I did not take those SATs.
Right.
I did not.
The only thing I will say, and you have this great advice for the kids, they both live on opposite ends of the country from their mom and dad.
Yes, I know. What did we do?
Which is probably tough, but
they come back a lot, Frank. It's so nice.
Right.
COVID really kind of helped that.
I think you say, what is it? You say when they're home. What is it you say about when they're home?
You miss them more.
You miss them more because you understand how much you miss them because they're home. Yeah. So it's just like one of those deals. So I thought that was very poignant as well. Yeah.
We remember what the sounds were like when they were little girls running around.
Or they're
the house.
Arguing.
Yeah.
It's still the same argument. Still the same deal, same stories. Yeah. So for you and your husband, Carrie, you could live basically anywhere in the world. I mean, you have artwork everywhere in the world. You've been connected to Oprah and Huffington Post, and you are known worldwide for all practical purposes. Okay, you can live anywhere in the world, and you live here. What is it about Kansas City?
Oh, I mean, the layers of the goodness and the stories and the people. It's just home. That I tell you about the block that I live on, that I grew up on, and you know where I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And maybe you had somebody there, and if I talked about what was going on in the school system at the time or in politics, I kind of you know how that made our fabric. And today, it's a cool place to live.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I want to leave now?
This is what you've been waiting for all your life.
Exactly.
Where are we going? Yeah.
The streetcar. Oh my gosh. My girls come back. It's so fun. It's like exploring a tourist destination all over again. The arts in Kansas City. I'm real involved. I'm on the board now of Starlight. I love what's going on at Starlight. We're doing it is the place I want to see a show. It's one of the biggest stages in the country for musical theater. We can put anything in that theater. I'd much rather see it on the stage at Starlight than a cramped little theater in New York.
New York,
maybe both. But it's the arts. There's a film scene. There's a visual arts scene that's unmatched. Sometimes you have to know where to find it, and we aren't great at promoting ourselves to ourselves always. But it's home, and it's so exciting right now. And don't get me started about sports.
Yeah, okay. Well, we could. That's no problem at all.
I just follow along. But
okay,
I'm a fair weather fan, and the weather is fair for football.
The weather's been fair since about 2015.
Yes.
Yes, when the Royals, 14 actually, when they went to the World Series, and then they won it in 15. And then Patrick Mahomes came on the scene, and in 2026, we're going to have this World Cup thing is going to be here. We have the soccer. It's going to be going crazy. And we have the KC Current. They just built their new stadium. And I guess the Chiefs and Royals will figure theirs out eventually. But yeah, and for you talked about entrepreneurs, and you were so big in that as well. And you brought up Made in Kansas City. We had Keith Bradley on the show as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just that is one of the great things about Kansas City and how people help people. There's not this jealousy thing you see in a lot of other bigger markets where I'm not going to bring that guy along. That guy's going to be better than I am. I'm leaving him where he is, type thing. So.
And I'll go out on a limb and say that might be what's holding us back a little bit, is we are all willing to fall in line behind leaders. Leadership is always the answer to the question, what can make us even better? And we need our leadership to be bolder, and it's a form of startistry. There are things that people want to start and that are great ideas that just take too long because we don't want to step on people's toes. We want everybody to like us when we start them. And I think every community deals with it. And then what happens is the mean guy is the one that starts it. I can't even think of examples, but I can think of examples of people not moving fast enough because they're waiting for somebody to really take bold action.
Yeah, instead of taking it yourself. Yeah. You're just sort of afraid to go around them and just go do your own thing, which you've done a lot of. You've gone around a lot of people. You realize that, right?
But I haven't. I'm just doing art. I'm just making stuff.
Come on. Oh, well, I'll tell you, Becky, I can't thank you enough for coming in. I know how busy you are. What is your next project? What do you have out there that maybe you haven't even talked about yet that you have in one of those compartments in your brain?
Oh, I forgot. We haven't even talked about, this comedy thing.
Yes.
I started as a fluke during writing the book, a comedy show called Ladies Laugh Lounge. And I'm going to do more of those. It's been sold out 3 times. It's a long story. I started a show in New York. My daughter invited me to a show in New York. People said, you ought to do it here. We did it here in Kansas City, and it's sold out every time at the Kansas City Comedy Club.
Okay.
The Comedy Club of Kansas City.
Okay.
The next one's April 24th and 25th.
Okay.
I do not do stand-up. I'm the comedy Sherpa. But it's women.
Are you the roadie?
I'm the roadie, or
comedy
maybe
roadie?
maybe the MC.
Oh,
I'm
you're the
definitely the
MC.
roadie because I
Gotcha.
bring
All the stuff.
a chaise lounge to the stage, and I have to carry it myself sometimes. No, it's my girls have educated me about comedy, and one of the truths is that it's one of those sports that men play differently than women.
Mm-hmm.
So women laughing together is great. They love to do that. Women laughing at the stuff they like to laugh about and not being the butt of jokes is super great. So we're just evolving. Every show has a few women who are doing comedy for their first time. So that's been fun. So that's one thing I'm focusing on, and might do a calendar of some art this year.
Yeah, of your own art. Oh yeah, the one art question I wanted to ask: why does every artist start with a pear? Is there any?
Good. I love to do pairs.
Every time you see, it's a pear. All right, I got the pear. I understand.
I think because everybody at home right now draw a pear.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
it's a shape that's so elegant and fun
and easy.
and is easy. And if you get the shape wrong, it still looks like a pear, right? What can you say that about?
Yeah,
No,
not much.
Not much.
Yeah, that is really great. Well, continue. Good luck. I know it's not luck. It's a lot of hard work, and you've done so much. But we are so glad you born, raised here, stayed here, and you're one of the reasons there's just something about Kansas City. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.